Kira crawled backwards out from under the table, her knees and elbows covered in dust. The little girl sneezed a few times before showing her big sister what she had discovered.
It's a pen.
Leah said unenthusiastically.
You crawled under somebody's table for an old pen?
Maybe it's antique. Antic.
Kira retorted.
Antique.
Leah corrected.
That's what I said.
Kira replied with a roll of her eyes.
Whatever, Kira. Come on, let's go. Maybe it stopped raining now.
Can I buy it?
Kira questioned. Leah nodded and watched as her little sister hopped over to the counter and asked to buy the pen. She quickly returned with the biggest smile Leah had ever seen on her face.
Mrs. Verbeek said I could have it for free.
Kira informed her sister and moved right out the door.
Free?
Leah was shocked.
Why?
Leah shouted as she quickly followed Kira out of the antique shop.
Mrs. Verbeek said it wasn't one of her antiques. Somebody must have dropped it.
The rain had stopped, but it hadn't helped the heat or heaviness of the air. It felt like a monkey was sitting on her shoulders. Leah's first breath of heated air into her lungs caught her by surprise. The air-conditioned shop they had left was much cooler. The two girls moved quickly through downtown Greenville toward their home. The sky was full of rain clouds, and thunder rumbled in the distance. It looked like it would begin to pour again at any moment. When they arrived back home, Kira proudly showed off her new pen to her parents. She told them how she would draw the coolest pictures with it. Leah figured it was so old that it wouldn't even work. She believed that was why Mrs. Verbeek had given it to Kira for free in the first place. The pen was probably all dried up. Kira dashed upstairs and closed the door to her room. She pulled out a notebook she received for her last birthday. This was the place she kept her special artwork. She was so excited. Kira flipped through the pages to find a blank one. Her previous drawings consisted of creatures she hoped that her dad would write books about. They liked to create things together. That was why she had started the notebook. Inside were all sorts of characters. Swampy, a spiky-headed, red-skinned, yellow-eyed monster, an unnamed silly purple dinosaur, Spinja, an 8-armed spider ninja, Manty, the yellowish-green bug-eyed insect man, and her favorite, Frumpkin, a tall, skinny, pumpkin-headed man. Kira pressed the pen against the paper and began to draw, but nothing appeared. She examined the pen's tip. It was different from other pens that she had. This one had a pointed tip instead of a ballpoint. She shook the pen. Kira wasn't sure why, but she had seen her dad do it, and it had worked for him. Still, nothing came out onto the paper. She began to grow frustrated and pushed harder and harder until she began to tear through the paper. Finally, she gave up in disgust and slammed the pen down onto her open notebook. "Is everything all right, Kira girl?" Her mother's voice echoed up the stairs. Kira grunted for a moment and didn't respond. "Okay, girl, it's time to come down for dinner." "Kiki?" Her dad's voice startled her. He had opened the door and now stood in the doorway. Kira resembled him. His hair had thinned and color faded, but it still showed in his short half-beard. His hazel eyes tried to gauge how to best approach her. "What's wrong? Pen not working?"
No, it's broken.
Kira replied with tears in her eyes. She fought hard to hold them back. Her dad knelt beside her and gave her a hug. Kira, however, attempted to avoid his sight. She turned her face, allowing her hair to block his view. She was afraid to cry in front of him. "It's all right. We'll take it back to the store tomorrow, and then I'll buy you some new pens. Better pens, okay?" Dad tried to console her. Kira smiled. Now he stood up and exhaled deeply, rubbing his bearded chin. "It's time to come down for dinner."
I'll be right down.
Kira replied as she stared at the torn page from her notebook. Kira picked up the pen. She hadn't noticed just how pretty it was. She held it up into the sunlight that was coming through the window. The pen was covered in thousands of tiny stones, giving it the appearance of shattered glass, but it was smooth to the touch. It began to glow within her hand, refracting the rays of sunlight. Kira's eyes widened as she watched the pen, magically casting light into the bedroom, almost brighter than the setting sun outside. It shone so brightly that Kira didn't notice that the pen had begun to drip ink. A large drop of ink fell from its tip and landed on her notebook. When the pen's light faded, she immediately noticed a blotch of dark ink on the back of her Frumpkin drawing.
Oh, what the what?
She yelled in frustration. She huffed in anger, closed the notebook and slammed the pen down on top of it. Then Kira left the room to go downstairs for dinner, but stopped in the hallway and gritted her teeth.
Stupid pen, ruined my drawing.
She returned to her room and threw the pen into the trash before stomping out and slamming the door. And that's the end of Chapter 1 for the Gossamer Pen. Hope you enjoyed it. Thank you very much.